What's up, guys? We are back with another Cosmic Legions review, and we're taking a look at one of two Cosmic Legions Masters of the Universe tributes for PowerCon 2023 this year. We're taking a look at OPOR-A-TIV83, which is our MOTU tribute for Man-E-Faces. And we've been getting PowerCon MOTU tributes for a while now, but historically they're mythic figures. Now we're into the cosmic side of things, and I am super excited for what we have this year because, quite frankly, the selections were really off my radar. Now, we do have OPOR-A-TIV83 here in the standard packaging that we've seen for Cosmic Legions Book 1 so far, which I do believe is different. I do believe the actual finished product in Outpost Zaxxius wave will have a different package. So we've got him there in the window. You've got that sort of hologram look down there on the bottom. One spine's going to give you a bio for this guy. The other spine's going to tell the story for Outpost Zaxxius. And then the back of the box is going to give you cross-sell for the first wave of figures along with the MOTU tributes that we're getting at PowerCon this year. So let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Cosmic Legions OPOR-A-TIV83. This again is the PowerCon MOTU tribute to Man-E-Faces. First release at PowerCon, and then he's also in the upcoming Outpost Zaxxius wave that has, of course, already gone up for pre-order. This is a tribute figure that I was not expecting. Neither of them were, really, when it came down to what we actually got. I had my guesses, and they were not what we ended up getting. But this guy looks absolutely awesome. Comes with some really solid accessories, and it is one of my, my favorite instances of Cosmic so far with these tusk bodies. And this right here really shows exactly what we can expect to see with some of these crazy colors that we might be getting in Cosmic when applied to this body, because there's so many things that can be touched up with paint. They don't have to be just white or gray like the Science Officer and the Sentry. There is a lot of potential in this sculpt, and I think this figure is really going to show that. Now, as far as what makes this figure up, he is overwhelmingly, at least in this configuration, he is a Tusk Science Officer like we got in Cosmic Wave 1, but he has a Xylernian Guard head sculpt that we saw in All-Stars 5. Now, he does have some new stuff. He's not all reuse, and then we get some extra heads to discuss in terms of the Man-E-Faces aspect of this figure, but this is how he looks right out of the box. And if you've messed with one of those Tusk figures, you kind of know what to expect when it comes to moving him around. We're going to run through it for the uninitiated, of course. So this is a 1.0 Legion style figure. We've got a head that can look up. The Xylernian Guard head has the movable face shield, so that does move. His head goes up and down. You've got some tilt side to side. You can remove this also if you'd like. Tilt side to side. You've got rotation. Now this head, I don't know if it was ever necessarily meant to be on this body, so it doesn't have as much range as you might expect, but it's still pretty decent. You're going to sort of hit the back of the backpack if you hit that head in the right direction, or wrong direction, I suppose. Arms are going to go out at the shoulder, about that far. The backpack does hinder that somewhat. You've got your swivel. We've got our single jointed swiveling elbow. You've got gauntlet swivel, and then you've got vertically hinged hands on him in the box and rotation there as well. Now, the torso on these guys is the one area that I think I would say I have concern for, and it's not necessarily the torso itself, it's this emblem on his chest. So this piece comes out, and it can be swapped with other figures. There are other ones. The Zaxxians have them. The Sentry has them, of course. This is the emblem for the Science Officer, which is why I said he's basically the Science Officer in terms of construction, because that's the emblem. That's the one thing that sort of stands out. And as a result, he really can't crunch forward. You've got pretty decent tilt, you've got rotation, and you've got some backwards, but if you take this off, you can see the potential of what he can do. Like, he can actually move forward really well. This thing is just so big that it hits the belt, and you kind of got to get it up and out of the way, and then you can sort of tuck it under, and it'll allow him to move forward a little bit better. Otherwise, it is going to hit that belt. You just have to watch what you're doing with it. Legs go out. He can do those cosmic splits if you need him to. Kick forward. Kick backward slightly. You've got your thigh twist up there. We've got our single jointed swiveling knee. And then down at those ankles, it's typical Legion. So you've got a twist at the top of the ankle. You've got your rocker. And then we've got our hinges down there. So all in all, pretty standard stuff. Nothing too crazy. If you've gotten Cosmic Wave 1, you literally know everything about what this figure can and can't do. But he's still very par for the course when it comes to Legions in general. The only thing I would say to watch out for is that emblem. Either, get it out of the way, or just be prepared for him to not have as much forward movement as you might expect. Now, I suspect it's not going to be much of a surprise if you're familiar with my videos, but I think maybe outside of the accessories that he comes with, the major focus for this figure is without a doubt the visuals. I mean, he has this absolutely crazy, crazy color palette. He's covered in metallic paint, this purpley pink color, the orangey tones, that blue. He is going to stand out even amongst the wild stuff we've already gotten in Cosmic Wave 1. He has a gnarly looking color palette, and of course, you know, it is absolutely influenced by Man-E-Faces. So you've got some of these like deep purpley pinks, you've got the blues, and then you've got this sort of odd shade of orange, and it's supposed to be more like the flesh tones on Man-E-Faces, which was orangey, but not like orange. So I think that that works pretty well. Not to mention the fact, literally every bit of paint on this figure, all of it, is metallic. And he looks so good as a result. I'm so happy with this. Something about the metallic nature of this figure makes him seem a little bit more spacey. So you've got all of this sculpt that we've seen before, and I mean, I'm saying that in the best way possible. It's not a negative for me that this guy is almost entirely reuse. I really like these parts. I'm a big fan of the Tusk bodies to begin with. I love the space backpacks, and his, in this color scheme, just looks so good. But there is a lot to soak in with this figure when it comes to the sculpt. I mean, he's literally covered in detail. There's no flat surfaces really on this figure. Everything has some sort of, you know, something carved into it or some greebling effects. You've got the sort of like weave patternings and patches that are all over the torso and the arms and the legs. He, of course, you know, has our ports for the little pegs that you can use. He's got them on his belt. He's got them on the wrist if you want to use those wrist blasters that come with other figures. He does not come with them. But I think it's really going to come down to just the paint on this guy. Because, again, we have seen this body before. There's nothing really new about what he is in terms of parts configuration. It's all about these colors, and I think they look great. Where they've applied these particular colors, I do think is pretty tactical in nature as well, because Man-E-Faces, he has, like, you know, the purple like canisters on his chest. He's got the blue on his chest, and then he has exposed flesh on the arms, the thighs, and the torso, and that's what you're getting with some of this orange color here as well. So it's all very purposeful in terms of what they've done. And actually, you know, just for the sake of doing it, we're going to throw in a Man-E-Faces here right now. So this is the Classics Man-E-Faces. I figured I'd do this one because, of course, you know, this is a Horseman figure. So we've got the Operative 83 figure on the left and our Man-E-Faces on the right to give you an idea of where some of these colors are coming from. So overwhelmingly a lot of blue, but then you've got that sort of orangey color where it would be flesh tones, and that's more in line with like the vintage figure and some of that vintage art. And then you've got the patches of purple and the pink colors that we've got here on the helmet, on the shoulders, on the chest in particular because of these tubes and that emblem there on the shoulders, and then of course on the thighs, which gives us a really good spot to utilize that sort of weave patterning that he has to hit him with that purple. So I think this crosses over really well. This body seems to be very much tailored to be able to use this kind of color scheme without having to be too weird about it. So I'm really happy with that. The one thing that is definitely going to stand out about this figure is the head sculpt, because this is a knight's head sculpt. This is a really weird kind of reuse, I think, not in a bad way, but in a surprising way, because I do think it kind of works. The face shield is clearly showing that, yeah, this is a knight. So there is, you know, a slot. You've got the face shield there with the actual clasp on the side. So it clearly looks like something that is more fantasy and medieval. But at the same time, the color scheme really lends it to work well. Like, I don't think this looks odd on this figure, and I was kind of worried that it might. So I'm really happy with that. Not to mention the fact this helmet with this color scheme I think looks awesome, and I was already a big fan of the Xylernian Guard from top to bottom. It's one of my favorite figures of the year so far, so I'm really happy to see a pretty crazy color scheme with that. But then you pop that face shield up, and they did the Man-E-Faces face paint on this, which absolutely transforms the Xylernian Guard head sculpt into something entirely different. I really think this looks tremendous. I'm really happy with that. There's no pupils in those eyes, which I've said, you know, over and over again in other videos. I really like that. It's just some stupid little detail that gets me every time. But that red, that shock of red paint in there really does something to transform this face and make him look legitimately, again, let's throw him in there, you know, make him look like Man-E-Faces. So they did a really solid job in translating all of the wackiness in terms of everything that builds this guy into something that we've got with a mix of cosmic parts here with a little bit of a mythic topper added on. Now for some size comparisons, let's start with other cosmic figures. So we've got the Tusk Science Officer here on the left, and we've got the Deluxe Oleg Thygar here on the right. So this gives you a pretty good idea of, some of the more normal figures, and of course how similar he is to this. I will mention that while I said these are basically the same, this guy is using a different belt. So this is the Sentry belt with the Science Officer emblem. So they have mixed and matched, even more granularly than I expected, but they are still very much the exact same thing. Basically a Sentry Science Officer with some different parts, bits and bobs swapped out. Let's do a Marvel Legend. So here is Banshee. Let's do a NECA Turtle. Here is Leo. Let's get Mezco representation in here. So there is Conan. Let's do Figuarts. Here is Goku. Let's do a Super 7 figure. There is the LJN Ultimates Lion-O. And then let's do a Masterverse figure. Here is Masterverse Faker. So he's in line with just about anything you would expect to see for Legions, either Mythic or Cosmic. We're talking 7-inch-ish range. So he'll mix pretty well with anything, 1/10, 1/12-ish. Now, as far as accessories goes, the name of the game here is Faces. He's a Man-E-Faces tribute. More specifically, it's head sculpts. And this guy gets 3 distinct heads that coincide with the Man-E-Faces faces and with the story that we got leading up to the Zaxxius pre-order. So the first one, of course, was this one. And this one was just described as like a mid-level worker in the story. I believe that's what this one is anyway. And then we get this one, which is interesting because this is a new piece. And it's clearly going to straddle the line between being used in Cosmic and in Mythic because, well, it looks like some sort of space monster done up in green. It's called a Vrikolex in the story, but this is clearly a 1.0 vampire face inside of a helmet. And I really like this. I'm curious to see how it gets used over time. I really like this helmet design too. And it does have these swappable doodads on the outside of the head, like we see a lot with Mythic with like antlers and fins and stuff like that. But this, of course, is meant to be the monster face for Man-E-Faces. This is the man face. This is the monster face. Pop this off, and we get this one here, which is also done up in Man-E-Faces colors. It's mentioned in the story as well that we got leading up to the pre-order. This is the robot face for Man-E-Faces, and this is a Tusk Sentry helmet. Now, I'm going to kind of refine what I've said about what this figure is in terms of the parts. I mean, it can go either way. It's either a Science Officer or it's a Sentry. He uses parts from both, but in this configuration, it's a Sentry with a Tusk Science Officer chest emblem. So whichever one you want to go with, I suppose it doesn't really matter. But I really like this helmet. This is one of my favorites so far. I'm a big fan of this one, and I specifically really like this in this color scheme. The blues, the silvers, the pinky purple looks really good. But what's more exciting is that, maybe you aren't going to use this head sculpt. What's cool about it is that it comes with the insert. So you've got the visor piece, but it's clear. And the Tusk Sentry had a matte yellow one. So if you want to pop this on your Sentry, you can do that and give him a clear visor instead of that matte finish one, which I think is just cool from a parts reusage standpoint. So you've got the 3 different versions of Man-E-Faces faces. They coincide with the story that we got, and we now have 3 heads with this figure. He also comes with some other stuff, of course, because heads alone is not going to do it. We do get some hands, so he's got gripping hands on him in the box. You get a set, of course, a set is 2, of trigger finger hands, and these are vertically hinged trigger finger hands. And he gets a gun. So Man-E-Faces always had a gun, and it was kind of an orangey color. So you get an orange blaster. This is just one of the blasters that we've seen throughout the line so far with Cosmic. It's metallic, just like the rest of everything with this figure. And of course, being one of these blasters with the ports on it, you do get a couple of the little pegs. So if you want to put one of those pegs in there, you can then stow it on the back of his belt. If you're like me, you may have way too many of these pegs already. So you've got that. And we also get the dome. So we get the dome for this guy as well. So you get a big blue one, which coincides with the color scheme, of course. It really seems like this is mostly meant for the Knight, the Xylernian Guard helmet. The Vrikolex doesn't really fit in there all that well. The Sentry head will, but you're going to have reduced mobility when it comes to moving the head inside the dome itself. And then you also get the bubble as well. So you get the full shebang when it comes to this guy. You get 3 different heads. You get the dome enclosure, and you get 2 hands, and you get the pegs, and you get a gun. So there's a lot of different options when it comes to this guy. Of course, the major players are this. I mean, you even got swappable backpack. If you want to take that off and put it on another figure, of course you can do that. So you've got modularity there, but there are a lot of different pieces to change this guy into something very, very different included in this package. So yeah, this is a really solid figure, and not just because it's a cosmic figure and I'm still kind of over the moon with cosmic stuff. This is just a good figure. I really like the Tusk bodies, and I really like MOTU tributes, so it's a good mix for me. I know the tributes aren't for everybody, but they are for me. So I'm really happy to see this stuff kind of enter into cosmic, and I really think this was the right body to use for this. Like, I can't think of any other combination of parts right off the top of my head that would work better than this. The way these pieces are segmented and they're put together with all these little patches and different areas of texture really look like they were meant for the Man-E-Faces color scheme. I really like the inclusion of this new head sculpt, and the idea of just giving us all these heads to play up the idea of Man-E-Faces works perfectly. The sculpt is good, the paint is good, it's everything you would expect to get from the Horseman, just done up in this crazy, crazy color scheme, and happens to also be a Masters of the Universe tribute. So that's going to do it for this look at the Cosmic Legion's PowerCon MOTU Tribute Operative 83. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.